On this episode of Swamp Wars, from invasive Burmese pythons to Africanized killer bees, deadly creatures are lurking all over South Florida, and no one is safe, not even in their homes. Plus, an African rock python has escaped in an enormous warehouse, and it could be hiding anywhere.
If any one of us is going to be bitten by an animal, it's going to be Ernie.
Wild Burmese pythons are moving in from the Everglades, and it's up to Chuck to protect against an invasive ambush.
This is a big snake. I got 8 feet in my hands. I don't even see his head yet.
And these huge pythons from the swamp are capable of devouring a meal the size of a 12-year-old boy. Miami is paradise, sitting on the edge of a swamp. The Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Venom 1 team is an elite group of firefighter paramedics that protect the people from the most dangerous animals that come out of the Everglades. Perhaps no creature captures the public's imagination like the wild Burmese pythons of South Florida. If there's anything worse than the thought of dying, it could be the idea of being consumed once dead. Pythons, like any animal, must eat to survive. They kill to eat. They constrict to kill. And they swallow their prey whole. But dangerous as they are, Burmese pythons continue to be a popular choice among exotic pet owners, many of whom keep other pets in the same house.
One man had a very large Burmese python and a pit bull.
The man left a dog in his yard and went inside his home. The dog and snake were home unattended.
Snakes truly are escape artists, and if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile, and they'll get out of their enclosures.
When the man returned to the yard, it seemed that something was wrong.
He couldn't find the dog or the snake.
The man searched for both his missing pets, his mind racing, wondering what could possibly have happened.
What he found was his Burmese python with a really large lump in its midsection.
This python was able to sneak up on the 30-pound pit bull and suffocate it.
If they're large and the dogs are small enough, you need to be really careful because snakes can eat dogs.
It's really important that when you keep animals like that, that they are in very secure containers.
It might seem incredible, but a 30-pound dog is small compared to what some Burmese pythons in Florida can consume.
Recently, workers that work for South Florida Water Management down in the Everglades National Park, they were clearing the tree island of non-native plants. And what they found instead was a very large non-native python.
16-foot python was found.
16 feet, about twice the length of the world's tallest man.
With a fairly sizable lump in its midsection.
Which, of course, they immediately wondered what was in there that would be that big of a lump. There was no way they were going to get this animal in on the airboat without killing it.
Government officials captured the Burmese python and killed it with a shotgun. To help prevent the invasive species from spreading north,
they brought it onto their airboat, and they took the airboat back to the research center in the Everglades National Park, where a necropsy was performed.
As they began the necropsy, one question lingered. What could be in this python's stomach? What did he capture wandering through the swamp?
They found a 76-pound female deer that the snake had evidently captured along the game trail.
Just an incredibly large meal. Even though the snake was 16 feet, that's a big meal.
It might be shocking to consider a python eating an animal the size of a 12-year-old. But that's what these predators are capable of. And out there in the swamp, pythons sit atop the food chain. And there is only one animal they compete with for the title of King of the Swamp.
The alligator does have an advantage. A lot more dynamic, they can hold their breath for a long time. They can do a lot of damage to a python. But when pythons get big, there's very few things that can still prey on them.
But when these pythons come out of the swamp, there's nothing to stand in their way. As night falls, a large constrictor has been seen crossing a road that divides invasive reptiles from the ever-expanding city. Venom 1's Captain Charles Seifert, a.k.a. Big Country, rushes to the scene.
It's after sunset, and it's dark, so this is not going to be an easy task. More than likely, he's still around here somewhere. It's just a matter of finding out where. Right here is like python suburbia, and then right there is human suburbia.
This is a particularly vulnerable area for the local residents, since parents send their children to this daycare. A deadly constrictor lurking along the perimeter of this facility could put children at risk.
Where there's a daycare, there's Cheerios been left on the playground, I'm sure. So the Cheerios obviously are going to attract the rodents, and the rodents, of course, are going to attract the pythons. You never know when you're out in the swamp what you might end up finding. There's been quite a few stories of what's to be found out here.
With Big Country, when he's handling a snake, it's like there's nothing else that he'd rather be doing. He's always the same. He loves it. He's got this huge smile on his face, and it's like he's in a zone of his own.
Oh, I got it. He's crawling through the grass. This is a Burmese python. He's not a happy camper. This guy isn't gonna be nice. Whoa.
Big Country is on a call for a huge python spotted near a daycare.
How long is he? I got 8 feet right here already in my hands. I don't even see his head yet.
And this python is hanging on for dear life.
I want to get him out of here. He's just grabbing around more and more trees. Oh, he's coming back around at me. Whoa. Ah, I'm tired right about now. This is a big snake. This snake was all intertwined between the roots. That had some really thick, tall grass that it was wrapped up underneath this grass. It took every pound of my 240 pounds to pull this guy out of the grass. All right. Ultimately, Big Country won. See how he's shining his head away from me, he's starting to inflate? This is not somebody's pet, this is wild Burmese. It's an aggressive, fast, strong snake that just gets my blood pumping. It's exhausting, it's a lot of effort. It might be a little work, but it's more fun than it is work. It's another notch on my belt. This ain't the first time we got a call like this. I don't think it's the last time either.
Lieutenant Lisa Wood is on a call about an animal that was trying to cross a road, but didn't make it. And though roadkill is common across America, here in South Florida, it looks a little different.
Ew, yuck. That's a big snake. Looks like maybe its head got run over. But it's a good-sized snake. I mean, it's pretty fat.
This predator died while crossing a roadway. It's another example of how these giant pythons are moving closer to people in search of food.
My neighbor found one same size in his front yard.
Yeah, it's not unusual.
I don't have to worry about my dogs, right? I have little dogs.
Yeah, they can grab little dogs.
While the Venom 1 team is not responsible for removing rotting carcasses from people's homes, they often take them for state research purposes. And there's a pretty good chance that, decayed as it is, Captain Fob will want to look at this animal.
It's very bloated, but it's a big berm. I'm just debating on how he's going to come out of there without disintegrating or blowing up and exploding on me. You think if I pop it, it'll be easier to handle? Hopefully I can move it without getting exploded on. I'm gonna pop it. Ew, sorry knife.
By piercing a hole, Lisa is going to let out some of the pressure and make this disgusting mass just a little bit more manageable. Of course, she'll also be releasing more stench.
Or not. If it's that tough, maybe it will go in the bag. We're just debating what to do with this carcass. I don't think there's enough trash bags in the state to contain that smell. This thing has been lying here in the sun for a couple of days. It is absolutely rotting, covered in maggots, and it smells horrific. Oh, this is going to be entirely gross.
Before removing the snake, Lisa will take pictures of it to send over to biologists at Everglades National Park. She places her hand in the shots to show how big the snake is by giving the biologist a sense of scale.
If it's fresh enough, the biologist will come and cut it open and see what's in there. Double gloving, because this is going to be disgusting. Oh, what we do in the name of science. This is really gross. So my strategy on this one is to bag the dead snake and then bag the bag and bag the bag, just to make sure that I don't get inundated by that smell. Triple bag. See how good these plastic bags are. See if they contain the smell. Scott had a really disgusting, smelly snake.
It's a African rock.
You want this snake bagged up and brought down to you?
Are you crazy? It's covered in flies. I'm not taking this big, dead, rotten snake and putting it in the truck. I'd just ruin the truck.
And I will say that he did not pick up the snake and bring it to Jeff. I did. So I'm one up on you, Scott. Maybe not.
Why would you force poor Lisa to bag up that maggot-covered, putrid python?
I never forced her to do it. I asked her if she was willing to do it.
You know her work ethic. If you ask her, she'll do it. She's not going to be like me and say, hell no.
When I unbagged that thing, it felt like a wet sponge. It was just bloated up that much, and there was all the gas in between the tissues and everything. It didn't bother me so much because I can't smell, but people within like 100 yards were going, oh my God.
That smell is offensive.
Yeah.
The members of the Venom 1 team have one thing in common. They love reptiles. In fact, the reptile community is a tight-knit group, and Venom 1 is an integral part of it. So much so that sometimes team members help others in the community when they're off duty.
I got a phone call from a buddy of mine who's a local breeder. and he had an animal that was surrendered to him. It was an African rock python.
African rock pythons are known for their nasty attitude. It's not a snake that makes a good pet. Unfortunately, the former owner surrendered the snake to the breeder in faulty caging, and it has now gone missing.
He's asked me to come over and give him a hand, search around his warehouse to see if we can acquire the animal.
If it isn't captured, this African rock python could spread diseases to the other reptiles in this facility. Or worse, it could escape into the wild and breed.
African rocks, they tend to like to hide around behind stuff. We got some nice rat containers here. I mean, if I was a snake, I definitely want to come over here, free pickings. Snakes are escape artists, so it's real possible that whoever turned this animal over had a problem with it before. Hence why it was turned in here. Worst place to be is down on your knees if this animal's right out in front of you. I'm at a disadvantage. You know, jump out at me.
If any one of us is going to be bitten by an animal, it's going to be Ernie. I'm not really sure what it is about him, but even docile animals will take a swing.
I don't like to get down on my knees like this. I don't want to get bit in the face. Good news is if I do get bit, it's not venomous. It's still gonna hurt like heck. Won't be the first time.
Ernie likes to take a really hands-on approach when it comes to catching snakes, and sometimes the snakes don't really appreciate that, and he gets bit.
Ernie's famous for getting bit by a 16-foot reticulated python. So every time I get a chance, I always like to rub that in.
Being bitten by a python is not what you want. In a matter of seconds, I grabbed him, he grabbed me. If it wasn't for Chuck, I would have never got that snake off me. Remember, their teeth are coiled backwards. They latch on and bite. When he was pulling them off, it was tearing away at me. Not a pleasant feeling. It is possible for it to crawl up on something. They're gonna find the smallest spot they can to curl up in. Now, up there, that's a different story. That's gonna take some searching. This is gonna be fun. Nice. There's a million spots for this thing to be hiding out. Doesn't look like anybody's been up here in a while. Oh!
An African rock python surrendered to a breeder has escaped its faulty caging, and Captain Ernie Gilson from the Venom 1 team is here to capture it.
Oh! Come on now. Yeah, and as you can see, he definitely wants no part of this. He wants to get away from me. Early as he can. Come on, dude. Help me out here. I'm trying to help you. Right? Nice. Not perfect area for this kind of stuff. Come on. Yeah, look, he wants to come up on his body, right up on him. There you go. Yeah. Look at him. He already wants to wrap up around me. This is gonna be interesting. Put a snake coiled around your wrist. You want to get him off of me without getting bit. Go.
This is one African rock that won't make it into the wild, which is a good thing. Capturing one snake does make a difference. In fact, one escaped pregnant female can cause a population explosion, turning a perfect place to live into a dangerous breeding ground, especially when the breeding creatures are venomous. though venomous snakes are deadly creatures that could kill you with one bite, they also just may save your life. Anti-venom is produced by extracting venom from deadly snakes, but getting the venom means handling the snakes, which can be deadly. As one man found out 15 years ago, before the creation of Venom 1.
A venom extractor was in the process of securing a 12-foot king cobra.
Because venom extractors need a very sensitive touch and they need all the dexterity they can get, they very seldom wear safety gloves when handling these animals.
This situation was even more dangerous for the handler because he was allergic to snake venom.
King Cobra just instantly comes out of the cage,
latched on to the venom extractor's forearm,
putting in a large dose of venom.
His lungs to start to close up to where he couldn't breathe.
He took out his EpiPen, gave himself an auto-injection. His assistant drove him to the hospital.
The assistant had brought 17 vials, some antivenom that they had, which wasn't for the king cobra, but she thought it might work.
No king cobra antivenom could be found, and because of the man's allergic reaction and the cobra's powerful venom, the man was fading fast.
Doctors simply could not keep pace with the venom that was shutting down his system.
He was going to need king cobra antivenom. At the time of this fight, there was no Venom 1.
Eventually, king cobra antivenom was located, and it was transported to the hospital from various zoos and other institutions throughout the United States.
With the right antivenom, the man's symptoms began to improve. But there was one monumental, unresolved detail. While its handler was fighting for his life in a hospital bed, the giant, deadly king cobra was roaming the extraction facility unchecked. The handler's assistant would have to capture the snake, and a mistake would almost certainly be fatal because there was no king cobra antivenom left at the hospital. A nervous king cobra struck its handler before a venom extraction. As the man fights for his life in the hospital, the deadly snake roams free in the facility. Now, the handler's assistant must capture the aggressive animal, and the mistake could be a death sentence because there is no king cobra antivenom left at the hospital.
The animal was still very agitated from the whole ordeal. So, of course, he stood up and hooded.
This snake is ready to claim its second victim.
The assistant then backed off and threw a few rats in an attempt to calm it down a little. Her rat strategy worked. The snake had eaten and was much calmer.
With a full meal in its stomach, it was easier to work with, it was less aggressive. She was able to hook the animal and recage it and secure it.
At the hospital, the news was also good. The snake's handler got the proper antivenom and began to recover. Without this antivenom, he probably would not be alive today. The people who extract snake venom, along with Venom 1, are an integral part of this life-saving process. Without them, the much-needed antivenom may never reach the victims in need in time to save their lives. During her time off, Lieutenant Lisa Wood is bringing some snakes captured from Venom 1 calls to the Reptile Discovery Center, a venom extraction facility in DeLand, Florida. Once snake venom is extracted, facilities like these will ship the venom to pharmaceutical companies to create antivenom and to perform research for other medicines that could save lives across the world.
Lisa, good morning. Hey, good morning.
How are you?
Good. Set them on the counter here. So you brought us
coral and an Eastern.
Fantastic. So come on back.
Carl Barden, the owner of this facility, is an expert at venom extraction.
We handle about 300 snakes a week, about 15,000 extractions a year.
Have you ever had an accident while you're extracting?
My last accident, which was an Eastern Diamondback, I had the snake in my hands ready to collect his venom. I turned my ankle and fell. I hit a piece of equipment and drove the snake up into my face.
Extracting venom from these toxic snakes may be the most dangerous job in the world. Nonetheless, it's work that must be done.
You are always working to make it better, make it safer. Beautiful. We're going to start with the coral. Coral snake venom is probably the most toxic snake venom in the United States. They're related to cobras. Even a small coral snake is capable of a lethal dose of venom.
So Carl must be extremely careful because just one misstep can be fatal.
Coral snakes normally give a lethal dose of venom right out the gate. One of the common misconceptions is that a coral snake has to bite and chew. He may chew, and he may continue to inject more venom, but at initial bite, if he breaks the skin, as you just saw, he can give you a lethal dose of venom in about a millisecond.
Carl then moves on to the deadly native Eastern Diamondback.
That is a very capable biter, making that snake fantastically dangerous. Shot.
Wow.
Probably, 3 or 4 lethal doses in that shot. We routinely see between 250 to 350 milligrams. That is 5 times the lethal dose in an average bite.
The next snake up is the Asian monocled cobra. With a cobra's lightning-quick strike, even a seasoned handler is in great danger.
Cobras in general, and particularly monocles, are very watchful. And if you're standing in front of them, you move, they'll move. They're always ready to bite.
Venom 1's Lieutenant Lisa Wood is at a venom extraction facility in Central Florida. She is observing the process of extracting venom. A dangerous operation, especially when dealing with a feisty monocled cobra.
They're always ready to bite. Snakes are wild animals, and they are unpredictable. The one thing you can predict is that they're going to do some crazy stuff like lunging at you and falling off the table. Venom extraction has to be hands-on, and anytime you're hands-on with a venomous snake, especially when your hands are up by those fangs, there's a lot of potential for accidents there.
All right. They average about close to 10 lethal doses in an average extraction.
And finally, another version of the cobra, the sunset monocled cobra. It's a color morph, giving it a unique appearance.
Beautiful snake. Venom, of course, remains identical.
This is why people want them.
Right.
Because they are pretty, and I hope that most people realize the danger.
Carl is about to risk his life yet again. But for him, it's just another day on the job.
Carl really has to have almost perfect technique every time he handles these animals. He can't hesitate, because if he does, he's going to get bitten. This facility is one of very few in the country. Without it, there would be no venom for some of very important drugs and also anti-venom. What Carl's doing actually saves a lot of lives.
Venomous snakes can kill with a single deadly bite. Africanized killer bees, however, attack differently. They sting and envenomate in groups of hundreds or thousands.
In large doses, bee venom will go in and start destroying tissues and blood cells.
Just the amount of venom that they can introduce can kill you outright.
Especially if you're allergic, just one sting could do you in.
In the United States, about 60 people are killed by bees every year.
One woman had a tool shed in her backyard, and she noticed that the door had been left open. She went out to check the shed, opened the door wider, when all of a sudden she was attacked by Africanized bees.
She ran away immediately, but she didn't get very far. She was absolutely covered in bees. Bees were in her nose, in her mouth, in her ears.
That's what these bees will do. Coming into our mouth when we have to breathe, that causes inflammation of the tongue starts swelling. I think that's going to make it harder to protect the airway.
Fire department arrived, and they sprayed her with water to try and push the bees off of her. She suffered hundreds of very painful bee stings.
She also had swallowed a lot of bees. She ended up in the critical care unit because she kept vomiting just fluid and bees. That happened for a couple of days, and then her organs started failing.
Unfortunately, she didn't survive the complications of the envenomation and died from her injuries 4 days later.
Africanized bees colonize in tight groups, often inhabiting small places. For this reason, they can go undetected until it's too late. A fire engine has been dispatched to handle a swarm of angry bees near an assisted living facility for seniors. Lieutenant Scott Mullen will meet the engine at the scene.
It's bad news.
An outbreak of Africanized killer bees in this location could be a potentially deadly scenario.
Africanized bees are aggressive. Taking an aggressive colony or hive of bees and put it into an overpopulated area like a neighborhood, you're just asking for trouble. The victims that we worry about the most in our unit are going to be the elderly and the infirmed and the very young, those that don't have the capacity to outrun these bees. The combination of fast, aggressive bees and someone that's not able to get away from them could lead to tragedy.
Upon arrival, Scott is greeted by firefighters on the scene.
Did you go back and take a look or no?
Yes, sir, I did.
As I walk around the corner, I see what the guys in the engine had told me about. There was a swarm of bees. It looked like they'd covered what appeared to be a dustpan. Look at the neighbor's house. They're inside the neighbor's house. Look at the window over there. I look up, and right there is the bedroom window of the neighbor full of bees. There's just thousands of bees trying to get out of this bedroom. It looks like a horror movie. I'm thinking worst case scenario. Is there a person living by themselves in this house? Have they been overcome by these bees? Are they going to be unconscious in there? Are they going to be dead inside?
Lieutenant Scott Mullen is on a call about Africanized bees at an assisted living facility for the elderly, only to realize that the hive, which could be tens of thousands of bees, is actually next door.
I'm thinking worst case scenario. Is there a person living by themselves in this house? Are they going to be dead inside? Do you live here?
What happened?
The whole back room is full of bees. They swarmed out of the house, but I can see the back window is covered in bees.
Fortunately, the homeowner tells Scott that the house is empty. Scott suits up for his own safety because if these are Africanized bees and they attack, they could cover him in a deadly blanket in a matter of seconds.
These hives, if left undisturbed, can get huge. I mean, thousands of bees. Remember, queen bee, she's laying 15 to 2,500 eggs a day, and our homes make perfect hives.
We walk around the side so we can find where the source of the hive is.
I can see that they're mainly in that wall right behind the bed. When I walk outside the house, I see it appears that around the plumbing where the water spigot comes out of the house, they hadn't sealed up that area.
The hive's right there. You see that around the water spigot? They tried to foam it up, but this foam, these bees chew right through it. So there's probably a whole column of bees going up into the attic and then coming out through the holes on the inside.
Back at the assisted living facility, the first step is killing the bees on the dustpan by spraying them down with a simple solution of soap and water.
You can see bees breathe out little holes in the side of their body. So when I spray them with that soap, it clogs it. It's like me just putting a bunch of slime up in your nose. And you can't breathe. And their metabolism's so fast, they suffocate within 30 seconds.
This swarm may not look like much of a threat, but it could be another attack waiting to happen.
In that group of bees, there's a queen bee. And all those bees on the outside are protecting her while the scout bees are out looking for a place to make a new home. I don't take care of this swarm, eventually it's going to find a hole in this house.
Scott will use the special solution to kill the swarm and its queen before it can spread and multiply.
So I'm just spraying them with the soapy water. I'm going to do it real gentle. You may think it's just kind of like rain. This is convenient. I can just sweep them right in there.
Fortunately, no one was injured or killed, but this easily could have been a tragedy. With this many bees inside this house, could have easily been on a victim, and that would have been a problem.
Now the hive next door must be killed, or all the residents in this area, especially the elderly, will be living in a potentially life-threatening situation.
This problem doesn't go away. It just grows and gets bigger and bigger, and it starts to affect your neighbors.
Destroying a hive is difficult and dangerous work. Special toxic pesticides are used to eliminate killer bees in large numbers. It can be a costly process, but homeowners often try to save some money by coming up with their own home remedies.
People will go to great lengths and do some really weird things to try to get rid of these bees, and most of the time, they run out of ideas before they run out of bees. Put mothballs out, suck them up with a vacuum cleaner, spray them with hairspray. Spraying water on the bees just makes them angry and wet.
When homeowners try to outsmart an Africanized killer bee colony, their amateur solutions can be just as deadly as a killer bee attack.
I had a call once where a family had called about bees. They'd gone to hang a family picture on the wall. The hole they made, the bees would start pouring out of it.
This homeowner also thought he had a clever idea to eliminate the bees, but in reality, he was risking the lives of his wife and children.
So he herded the children into the bedroom, closed the door.
The owner brings in his barbecue grill.
Their thinking was that the smoke would drive the bees out. As soon as I walked in, I was met with the smell of smoke. And as a fireman, that's something that sets off red flags right away.
This action may have killed the bees infesting his home, but had Lieutenant Mullen not been called to the scene, it could have been fatal for the family.
Carbon dioxide would slowly start starving them of oxygen until they passed out. His family, 5 kids, they would have all died. When it comes to bees, he's better off left to the professionals.
It's easy to underestimate nature's everyday dangers. But in South Florida, residents must keep an especially watchful eye over their homes and yards. Whether it's Africanized bees, giant deer-eating pythons, or any of the other thriving, deadly, native and invasive species, living on the edge of a swampy wilderness means that on any given day or night, some crawling, flying, or slithering creature could be getting ready to move in.
To see highlights of Swamp Wars, visit animalplanet.com/Swamp Wars.